Welcome to Beyond Reproach.
Hi there.
That's Stephanie. I'm Tux, and this is the podcast where we talk about scandals and scandalousness in government.
Hi, guys.
When I was a kid at school learning the golden rule, teacher often used to say, if you don't tell a lie, there's not a reason why you can't be like Washington someday. How could Washington be a married man and never tell a lie?
We're drinking. We have some tasty ass mint juleps. Cheers.
Cheers. Ooh. Wow, that's really, really yummy.
For those of you who don't know or who have never had a mint julep, they're essentially a whiskey snow cone with mint. It's crushed ice with bourbon and mint and either sugar or simple syrup. And then you pour the whiskey over the crushed ice and it literally is a snow cone.
It's so good. It's so incredibly refreshing. Bourbon-y? Is that a word?
Yes, it is today.
Oh, wow, I love all these little pieces of ice. This would be a great business idea if you made these into actual snow cones.
Yes.
And served them in bars.
Oh.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because you couldn't really sell them on the street because that's illegal.
Depends on where you live.
Yeah.
In Vegas, you can drink.
It depends where you are, too.
Yeah.
Like, if you're on the beach in Rockaways, like, they sell nutcrackers.
Yeah. Well, that's illegal, technically, but nobody's going to stop you.
Yeah, but it's hard keeping all this ice all icy.
But if you have one of those carts, like the people that sell the Italian ice or whatever, or the snow cones on the beach.
Yeah, the Mexican snow cones. Mm-hmm. Have you ever gotten one of those? Mm-hmm. They're so good.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's one of the things I miss about living in Bushwick. Access to Mexican snow cones.
We're making mint juleps today because I'm going to talk a little bit about Teddy Roosevelt today.
Ooh, I actually have just a few things that I might add or I might not add because they relate to my story in a way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Did he like juleps or just
So yes, apparently he...
I mean, what's not to like?
Yes. He liked mint juleps. Oh, also, for those of you who have never had a mint julep, they're real strong. It's essentially just whiskey.
Yeah.
With, like, a touch of muddled mint and
some sugar.
But
it's whiskey.
It's like 98%
with a hint of those
whiskey.
Other things.
So if you don't like strong cocktails and you don't like whiskey, a mint julep is not for you.
Yeah.
But anyways...
Maybe try water.
Yeah, if you don't like strong cocktails, maybe get the fuck out.
Bye!
Yeah. But so, he liked mint juleps.
Okay.
Apparently he also liked to sue for, like, libel and stuff.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So I was reading a little bit about, like,
How does that relate to mint juleps? This is his drink? His cocktail?
Apparently he didn't really drink very much, or at least he liked people to believe he didn't drink very much. And a newspaper, or maybe even multiple newspapers, wrote in print that he was a drunk.
Oh, okay.
But it sounds like that they were really lying, that it was just like they were just trying to sell newspapers.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And so rather than just kind of brush it off, he sued them. And in court, he had witnesses come and say that he didn't drink or he rarely drank and he never got drunk. But on the stand in court, he said if he ever drank, the only drink he would drink was mint juleps. And that there was a mint bush at the White House.
Okay.
And he said, I have never drunk a highball or cocktail in my life. I have sometimes drunk mint juleps in the White House. There was a bed of mint there, and I may have drunk half a dozen mint juleps a year, and certainly no more. I never drank but one mint julep at a time. I doubt if I have drunk a half a dozen a year. I doubt if I drank a dozen during the entire 7.5 years there since I left the presidency. In the 4 years since I left, I remember I have drunk 2. Okay. So this was after he was a president.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time believing somebody who never drank liked mint juleps.
Yeah, exactly. This is
these
a
are
strong cocktail for a beginner.
Yeah.
This is not like an amaretto sour.
Yeah, that's true.
My sister, Jessica, I'm sorry I'm telling your secrets, but she still, to this day, will drink. I'm like, that's just sugar. Like, you're just drinking sugar.
So, to make a mint julep, you have to crush ice. And crushing ice is not an easy task.
Or a quiet task.
Yeah, not a quiet task for sure. I have this fancy little canvas bag called a Lewis bag that you like fill it with ice and then you beat it with a mallet until it's supposedly is supposed to be crushed to the fineness of snow.
Wow.
But that's not what we did.
No.
Because
who has the time?
Yeah.
Or the servants.
Exactly. Do you want to talk a little bit about dating?
Oh, God. I guess. I'm single in New York.
She's a serial dater.
I am a serial dater. I've become a serial dater this year. It's very weird. Before, I would go on dates kind of regularly, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week when I first moved to New York 10 years ago. But now I'm going on like 3-4 dates a week, and I've been doing
all
this.
with different people.
Different people, all since after I started therapy. I had a different perspective. My therapist is like, it could be fun. It's like meeting new people. Like, it doesn't have to be serious. And I'm like, you're right. It doesn't have to be serious. So I think starting like April to now, and now I'm feeling burnt out. It was fun.
Well, you're
for
a serious
bit.
person, so you've made it serious.
I know.
You made it like from from
in my head. I'm just like, I'm so lighthearted,
Yeah.
but actually, I'm not.
Yeah.
In reality,
I mean, you can be, especially when there's mint juleps involved.
Yeah, I think my perceived reality is different from actual reality when it comes to this. I'm like, oh, I'm so fun, but yeah, I do. The way I date is not. It's starting to grind on me. I feel a little bit annoyed.
Yeah.
It's not even that I'm going on bad dates. It's like I'm going on dates that are like meh. Like
Yeah,
I'd
but
rather
when you're
be
doing
home.
that all the time.
All the time, yeah. It's
you
the
just
volume
need to
thing.
take a little break, take a breather.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a break because I just can't imagine that I'm really any fun because I'm just like showing up like.
Yeah, I don't want to be here.
Give me a double whiskey and don't look at me.
Yeah, no touching.
But you're going on vacation, so I think I'm gonna take a break.
Do it.
There's no reason for me to be going on 4 dates a week.
Yeah,
like 1 a week. It's fine, if that. If I want to.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is like if you, how are you finding these dates?
Online.
Like
Yeah, I'm on all of the apps. Mm-hmm. Not so much Tinder so much anymore. It was fun.
That's for hookups, right? That's not like.
Yeah, but there was a time when it was a legitimate dating app.
Okay.
It started because of Grindr, like it was supposed to be the straight Grindr, but because women are involved, like we think we
turned it into.
Yeah, we turned it into a dating site for a good like 2.5 years, but those days have long since passed. So I'm on Bumble and Hinge.
I've never even heard of these.
Okay. So
I've never heard of Bumble or Hinge.
Really?
I met my husband.
Of course, duh.
I met my husband long before the years of dating apps.
Before the boom of apps.
Yeah. I mean, we did meet online. We met on OkCupid.
OkCupid. Yeah, I'm on that one.
I never experienced Grindr.
Yeah.
I never experienced
And you weren't using
Scruff.
it in an app form.
No.
Yeah, you were using
on a computer like a dinosaur.
Yes. He was actually using a fax machine, you guys.
Yes. I faxed him.
With your cover letter.
Yeah. To whom it may concern.
Bumble is like, I guess it's like Tinder, but the woman has to be the first to respond.
Oh.
So if you swipe yes and they swipe yes, then you can respond. Then I can respond, but they can't do anything. They can just see that we matched.
Okay. That's cool.
And yeah, it's like the more feminist version.
Sure.
But men complain on it. Like you read in their bios, like, oh, I'm so sick of women just saying hey. And it's like this has been women's experience until Bumble. Like we had to deal with you guys being like, sup.
Yeah.
Like you're hot. The end.
Up.
Like yeah. So now men are feeling it and they're pissed.
But also, if you don't like it, why are you on Bumble?
Thank you. And putting this in your profile is not attractive.
No.
Like, a woman isn't going to be like, oh, he's complaining. Oh, I like the way he's complaining about everything. About the services he's participating in. But I have met some nice people. I met some horrendous ones as well. But generally, everyone is pretty nice. It's just I'm not matching or meeting people that I really like enough to see more than 3 times.
Well, New York is a weird place because there's a lot of fish in the sea.
Yeah, so transient.
Exactly, people come and go.
Yeah.
If you meet somebody you actually like, who knows how long they're going to be around.
Yeah. Some of my favorite people that I've met, they've been here either on business or vacationing.
Who's on a dating app on vacation?
Okay, so I kind of do it in Italy as a way for someone to show me around, which is not how it's supposed to be used.
Yeah.
And men have been like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, actually, I just want to like go to this park and I want you to show me things.
Yeah.
And don't touch me. But people do the same in New York. I met a guy, he was here for the summer working for Apple, originally from Barcelona, and we hit it off and it was wonderful, and then he just went back at the end of the summer. It was
I guess being here for a summer is different than being on like a 2-week vacation or whatever, or a week-long vacation.
My first Tinder date was a 2-week-long vacation.
2 weeks is a long time for a hookup.
We had fun, actually. We went out on like 3 or 4 dates in the 2 weeks that he was there. And he just wanted to see everything. And I was like, okay. I just got out of a long-term relationship. My boyfriend at the time moved out just a few months prior. So I'm just like, whatever, this is fun. But yeah, I don't use it anymore because it's no place to be. The guys there are just so thirsty. It's like, did you all just get out of jail? Like, what is going on?
God.
It's like, hey, beautiful. It's like, does anyone respond to that? Like, that's just...
I mean, New York is a weird place, too, when it comes to, like, catcalling and stuff. And I'm sure that catcalling happens everywhere. But it's so heightened because there's so many people on the street all the time in New York.
Yeah.
I see it so much, and every time I see it, it's not even just catcalling that I'm seeing, but it's like just men who leering.
Like, they don't have to catcall. It's like you feel it as a woman as you're walking towards you. I've always been able to predict when I'm going to be catcalled because women we have to be hyper aware because we're afraid for our lives. Yeah. Literally, we're afraid for our lives, so we can sense just the way that they're standing and the way that you don't even have to look at them, but you feel it. It's such an intense, like, their bodies changes and they're it's so terrible. A few people have caught me off guard completely. And it's always like some older white man, like in a suit, like whisper something. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even see you coming. Gross. Yeah.
In Bushwick, they're always in cars driving past.
The drive-bys, yeah.
And
like,
they're
what do you expect to get out of this?
Sometimes they say something, sometimes they just stare with their mouth open. Like, you're not...
But yeah.
Oh, you're a fucking dirtbag, dude. A, fucking close your mouth and look where you're going. Yeah. B, if you're going to say something, does that ever work?
Yeah.
Has one time in your entire life has anyone been like, you said, hey, baby, and they're like, oh, hello, sir.
I've seen one woman who was catcalled in front of me by, this like blew my mind. One woman in 10 years who was catcalled in front of me by construction workers who then took out her phone and proceeded to take his number.
What?
Was flattered. I couldn't, as I passed her, I turned around, full body, is everyone seeing this? Like, this young, attractive woman was just like, oh yeah, was flattered by it.
Gross.
She was kind of younger, also, Latina. Yeah, but she's in the minority, clearly, because I've never, ever seen anyone else positively respond to catcalling.
But then that one woman is ruining it for everyone else.
I don't blame the woman.
Was he hot? Did you see the construction worker?
I don't see them.
Yeah.
I assume he had a face and a body, but it's just like, no, I'm not checking for. It's so funny. I was walking, I think in Harlem one day, and there was a girl who was leaning into a car that was idling on the street. She was talking to the guy in the driver's side, so she was kind of in the street, hanging into the car. And then the guy in the passenger seat saw me walking down the street, was catcalling me. And the girl talking to the guy in the driver's side, she's like, ain't nobody checking for you. Don't bother her on the street. She's just walking down the street. Yeah. And I'm just like, thank you.
I have called multiple men in Bushwick scumbags to their face, but they're not paying attention to me. Yeah. It doesn't even register. No. Yeah. But literally every time I see the fucking douchebag walking by and staring at some girl's ass.
Yeah. Or the turning to stare.
Oh god, you're a scumbag.
So gross.
I'm not going to say I am a man, and that's not to say that I don't, if I see a guy with a nice ass, I'm not going to kind of turn around and look.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it so obviously and so gross.
Yeah. There's a way to do it without being a predator.
Exactly. You can look, but don't fucking turn your entire body and make a production of the fact that you are staring at somebody's body.
It is 100% a production. It is theatrical.
And it makes people uncomfortable and they don't care.
Well, it's a power play. Any reaction is a reaction that I am causing. Therefore, I am important in your life in this one moment.
Ugh.
It's so gross.
America.
It's so gross.
Not to say that this only happens in America.
Yeah.
But we do have a culture of encouraging toxic masculinity.
Yeah. I've been in other places where they've looked, but it's never been as obvious as it is here.
Yeah.
It's not a production there. But yeah, we should probably start, because I can talk about dating and men being trash all day. But
and mint juleps.
And mint juleps.
Oh, Stephanie and I had a Kentucky Derby party once when we lived together many moons ago.
7 years ago?
Essentially, a mint julep is easy to make if you have crushed ice. But without the crushed ice, it's not really the same. Some people's fridges have that function where
it was a derby party, right?
Yeah, we had a Kentucky Derby party. We had
so much mint growing in our backyard at the time.
Yeah. But we had a bunch of people over. Everybody dressed up.
Yeah.
I bought a seersucker suit specifically for the occasion.
Yeah, I bought this linen, sleeveless, like super waspy dress from J. Crew. It was beautiful, but I've never worn it again because I'm like, I'm not that person. I don't live in Connecticut.
Well, the men didn't, but all the women had big ass hats.
I made hats.
And there was a contest at the end for who had the fanciest hat.
Yeah, that was fun.
We had these neighbors that were a lesbian couple that didn't really officially come to the party because they were working or something, but then they came by later, and Emmy had, for some reason, had these taxidermy ducks in her apartment.
Oh, yes.
And then she, like, somehow stuck these taxidermy ducks on a hat and came out and was like, I win!
Yeah, no, you do win. Like, somebody throw her roses.
Yeah, but it wasn't even, like, a fancy, it was like a baseball cap with ducks on it.
She won. Yeah, showstopper.
Okay, so back to Teddy. Apparently, Teddy Roosevelt hated to be called Teddy. I read this in my research
that is I could see it because he's a grown damn man.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want?
I don't know why people called him Teddy if he hated it so much. Like, he wanted to be called Theodore. Or TR. He was frequently called TR.
TR.
Yeah.
That's nice.
But, the reason that teddy bears are called teddy bears is Teddy Roosevelt. Like, that's
so he had bears. Did you know that? At the White House.
Like live bears?
Correct.
I knew he was really into taxidermy, but I didn't know he had live bears at the White House.
He also had snakes. He had a whole bunch of things. Like, his kids would, for a goof, would just, like, walk into cabinet meetings and, like, throw snakes on the table and, like, run out giggling.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
As a progressive liberal, I'm obsessed with the Roosevelts, both Teddy and FDR. Because Teddy Roosevelt came to power in an era when Republicans weren't what Republicans are now. He was very progressive at the time, and he created a number of government agencies that we still have today that we're fighting for today that are sort of in peril because of the current administration. Yeah. Parks departments and state parks, federal parks.
Yeah, he used national land really efficiently.
Yeah.
Like, he protected a lot of things.
Whereas now they're like, no, let's tear it down and put up an oil well.
Let's charge people to be here.
I have a feeling that the Roosevelts will probably come up frequently in this podcast.
Oh, yeah. No, I have some favorites that I will be revisiting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you.
I have a folder on my desktop of my computer that's called Notes on Several Scandals.
This motherfucker. Well, because I'm just busy dating way too much. He's always like, I finished episode 17. I'm struggling to finish the one that we have tomorrow. I'm going to get ahead when you're on vacation.
There you go. I hope you do.
Me too. I'm like, I want the final word.
Let's cheers again.
Yes.
To TR.
To TR.
Damn, that's good. They're dangerous. Like,
I want to eat the ice.
I know.
But
that tiny amount of simple syrup makes it so much easier to drink. And because it's so cold. Mm-hmm. So obviously segregation was the law of the land in the early 1900s. A black man could not offer to shake the hand of a white man because such a gesture implied equality. Oh. Which was obviously not welcome and not true.
Let the record reflect I'm clutching my pearls.
Yeah. Even though that was the case, in 1901, TR...
I'm like, who?
Theodore, not Teddy, Theodore Roosevelt invited Booker T. Washington to have dinner with him and his family at the White House.
Cool.
Yes.
Wow.
In 1901.
Okay. TR.
Good for you.
Good for you.
He, like I said, he was a Republican, but this was not the Republican Party that we know today. He was progressive.
He was the Democratic Republican still.
No, they were Republicans and Democrats at this point. Democrats at that time in history were basically Republicans.
Okay, it was before the switch.
Yes, this was before the switch.
Okay.
Democrats, especially Southern Democrats, were horrible racist, evil people, especially Southern Democrats, but Democrats in general were super conservative and super racist.
Yeah.
Republicans were the sort of more progressive party. The switch happened sometime between Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
How many years in between, do you know?
TR came to power because McKinley
Yes.
was shot.
Yes.
And
Yes.
TR was McKinley's vice president.
Yes.
So this is 1901. It was his first year in office, 1901. TR was in power for 6 years, I think. He didn't run for a second elected term because he had already had half a term as somebody who had stepped into power after McKinley died. And then, of course, at the
because
end
McKinley died the first year of his term.
So I guess TR was in power for 7 years. FDR was into the 40s, but mostly in the 30s. So it was about 30 years. And in that 30 years...
That's when the switch happened.
Yeah. Okay. But that's a fast flip in 30 years.
Yeah.
But I think that the Republicans were kind of already in the process of flipping when TR was in office.
I think the Republicans are in the process of switching now.
Oh my God. Into who knows
some
what.
hybrid thing.
Tea Party.
The know-nothings.
Yeah.
They're coming back.
Seriously. Anyways, tangent.
Yes.
1901, Teddy Roosevelt invites Booker T. Washington to have dinner with him and his family at the White House. Slaves and free African Americans helped build the White House, but after it was built, Black Americans were not allowed into the front door at all. They weren't even allowed in the White House unless they came through the servants' entrance and only as servants. They were not allowed, especially at the beginning. When Thomas Jefferson first moved into what at the time was called the Executive Mansion, it was not called the White House until much later. He brought a dozen slaves with him from Monticello to run the house, and slaves remained part of the White House's staff until Zachary Taylor died in 1850. Zachary Taylor was the last slaveholding president.
Jefferson refused to free his slaves upon his death.
On his death?
Upon his death, he refused to free them. They were
inherited them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God. Damn it.
Even though he was having children with some of them.
Yeah.
So,
all of these people are going to come up again and again.
Oh,
I say the Roosevelts,
all the time. Yeah. Everything is related.
Yeah.
Like there's so many threads that go back hundreds of years.
After 1850, after slaves were no longer slaves in the White House, little by little things started to change, and eventually Frederick Douglass was invited to the White House as a guest of Abraham Lincoln, and Elizabeth Keckley was a black dressmaker and former slave who was friends with Mary Todd Lincoln and was her confidant. Confidant.
Yeah.
Confidant. The Lincolns were sort of the first people who would invite African Americans or Black Americans into the White House in sort of like a non-servitude situation.
Yes.
By 1900, it, however, was still not customary for Black Americans and white Americans to sit down and eat together. And if they ever did eat meals in the same room or at the same time, usually there was some sort of partition between the white people and the black people so that people's sensitive natures would not be offended.
Yes.
I'm really into food history. I'm sure we've mentioned this before, but I'm like a total food history nerd and have maybe not hundreds, but multiple dozens of books on like very specific food history facts, factoids, and little, like I have an entire book that to me was riveting about the history of baking powder.
Yeah, you told me about that, and halfway through the sentence I fell asleep. Yes,
it's real good. It's interesting. Anyways, during the Depression, when the WPA was creating all these dams and roads and things, there was a separate part of the WPA that was for artists and writers, and there were so many newspaper men that were out of work that they created this road trip kind of guide.
This road guide. Famous people who did that.
Yeah. This road guide was so successful that after it was released, they decided to do another one that was food-based. There was like regional food specialties throughout the U.S. and like the history of certain kinds of food and blah, blah, blah. But it ended up never being released because the war broke out before it was finished. And there are multiple books on this never released document and how it was made. This is a long way to go to get to this story. But there was one about Southern barbecue, and there was a picture in the book of a barbecue on like a plantation, and there was a huge crowd of people with a really long table down the center, black people on one side, white people on the other side, and there was like stacks of like sliced white bread all over the table, but it looked like in the picture, and I couldn't figure out what it was because it's an old picture, it's kind of grainy. It looks like there's like a ping pong table net all the way down the entire length of the table, and I couldn't figure out why, but after reading, it was a partition to separate the black people from the white people so the white people wouldn't have to watch the black people eat. Which is like, why not have them at a separate section of the barbecue? They're all on this super long table.
That's so weird.
It was real gross. Once I figured out what it was and why it was happening.
Wow.
Yeah. So Booker T. Washington was born a slave in Virginia. He gained his freedom under the Emancipation Proclamation and moved to West Virginia to attend school, where he learned how to read and write. He went on to become a prominent African-American scholar, author, leader, supporter of education, and co-founder of the Tuskegee Institute. Mm-hmm. He was an important ally for Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt had just taken office after McKinley's assassination, and he was really unsure about how to handle sort of appealing to black voters and doing it in a way that would not upset Southern whites. Mm-hmm. So,
and this is before they started putting all the hurdles.
I mean, I'm sure there were
black people from voting.
There were definitely hurdles at this point, but some black people were still voting. So,
okay.
And because Teddy Roosevelt was a progressive, he was not getting the Democratic vote.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I see. Yes.
So he really wanted to have Booker T. Washington as this ally to try and help him navigate these sort of murky waters of race in the South and how to handle it. The country was still in a period of mourning for McKinley because McKinley had just recently died. And the newspapers had written that the Roosevelts would not be hosting any official state dinners at the White House, but they would have small family dinners and they would have select important guests occasionally, but it wasn't like they were having huge dinners. So Roosevelt invited Booker T. Washington to the White House to have a meeting with him, but then he worried that the meeting would run too long and he would have to eat dinner. So he was like, okay, I'm just going to invite him to have dinner with us. Mm-hmm. And then sort of instantly was like, oh shit, I can't invite a black man to my dinner table. But then felt bad for thinking that. So he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to invite him. I'm inviting him to dinner. He's going to have dinner with us. Who gives a shit? He was a progressive New Yorker. When he was in New York, he used to invite black guests to his table regularly. Mm-hmm. So he was like, there's no reason that I shouldn't continue to invite black guests to my home. So he changed his mind and sent out the invitation quickly so that he couldn't go back on his mind again. It was said that Washington also had sort of reservations about joining him and thought, like, this is not going to be a good look for either of us. People are going to be mad at me in the South. And he was hesitant to accept the invitation, but then was like, if the president is inviting me to dinner, I have to go to dinner.
Yeah. Now I'm busy.
Yeah, exactly. Rain check.
And I'm always going to be busy.
Yes. Lose my number. It said that, you know, as anyone would be when invited to meet the president and have dinner with the president, it was said that Washington sort of worried and fretted over what he should wear to the White House. He ended up having somebody go to the White House for him to ask about proper protocol, and decided to wear a black dress suit rather than his everyday clothes. Dinner was 8 p.m. He joined the president's wife, their teen daughter, 3 sons, and an old family friend who was also having dinner with them that night. Oh, side note.
Oh.
The White House china.
Oh!
At one point in an episode, you may or may not have heard a story about the White House china. When Edith Roosevelt came into the White House, there were many incomplete sets of former First Lady's china. Pieces had broken, pieces had gone missing, but each First Lady would tend to bring their own china. So the White House kitchens were filled with incomplete sets of china. And apparently the White House used to sell off any broken or unusable pieces as like tourist like souvenirs.
Oh, cool.
But Edith Roosevelt thought that it was undignified. So rather than selling off the broken pieces, they literally threw them into the Potomac.
What?
Yeah. They were like, oh, nobody can have these, so we're going to throw them into the river.
Wow.
Yeah. She organized the remaining china that was still in good shape and displayed it as sort of like museum pieces, like this was so-and-so's China, and this was so-and-so's China. And then ordered 120 place settings of gold and white Wedgwood for state dinners.
Okay.
So that became the official White House China, which...
They still use today?
Well...
Harding.
Harding lost it.
Oh, him.
Yeah.
The first presidential fuckboy.
F-boy.
Yeah.
So after TR and Washington had dinner, the men retired to one of the state parlors called the Red Room to discuss politics over coffee. And according to Booker T. Washington, they talked at considerable length concerning plans about the South. All in all, the evening was pleasant and productive, and Booker T. Washington left around 10 p.m. When he talked later about the dinner, the fact that seemed to mean the most to him about the meal was not that he was now in a role of sort of advisor to a new president, but the fact that the president's family had joined him at dinner, and he and really sort of welcomed him.
Yeah, that's huge.
I wish that was the end of the story.
Oh, no.
I wish that we were not discussing this
of course
on
there's
a
a
political
backlash.
Scandals podcast.
Yeah.
But this was a scandal.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not shocked by that, given that they had to sit with dividers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, overnight, news of their dinner became a national sensation, and by morning, almost everyone in the country knew about the meal. Most papers in the North reported on the story in a positive light, said that, Roosevelt was welcoming black advisors in to sort of,
Yeah, it's good to ask a black person instead of just being like, I think we should do this.
Yeah. They were reporting that he was acknowledging Washington's accomplishments, and the dinner was an attempt to show that he was everyone's president.
Because he should be?
Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah.
Well, we live in a time where we don't have an everyone's president again.
I mean, every episode ties to today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single one. There's a lineage.
Yeah. Obviously, coverage of the dinner was slightly different in the South than it was in the North.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The main reason it was such a scandal, not just the fact that a black man had dinner with the president in the White House.
There was no dividers.
Well, that that may have pleased people if there had been a divider, but no, the real reason...
there's women.
There was women present.
Oh, of course. You got to protect the ladies and all. Yeah.
The president's wife and their teenage daughter Alice were present, and white people lost their damn minds.
Yeah, they did.
In the South, especially at this time, dining with somebody was symbolic of social equality. And the feeling was in the South that if you invited a man to sit at your table, you were actually inviting him to woo your daughter.
Oh.
And that he should feel perfectly comfortable asking for her hand in marriage. Any dinner guest that was male should feel comfortable asking for your daughter's hand in marriage. And if you didn't want that, you would not invite this man to dine with your daughter.
They're asking the man, like, if his daughter could be sold off to him, basically.
Hey, do you like the steak? Great. Do you want to fuck my daughter? Cool.
Yeah.
Where do I sign?
Yeah.
And obviously, Washington was a black man, and so white Southerners were like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's crazy that they didn't burn the White House down immediately.
Yeah. The Memphis Commercial Appeal, which was a newspaper, wrote, President Roosevelt has committed a blunder that is worse than a crime, and no atonement or future act of his can remove this self-imprinted stigma. The Memphis Scimitar wrote that the dinner was, quote, the most damnable outrage which has ever been perpetrated by any citizen of the United States.
Wow. That is strong. That's a strong statement.
It is, in fact, a strong statement. The most damnable act.
Ever, too.
Yeah, ever in the United States.
That's hyperbole, sir. Come now.
Let's
take it down 1,000 notches.
Because most of the reporting that I am now reporting on came from the South.
Yeah.
At a time when they were not afraid to use the N-word. It was a challenge for me to figure out how to report the rest of the story. I'm obviously not going to use the N-word. I don't want to omit these stories, though, because they're...
No, you should put them in. Yeah.
Important to tell the story of what happened.
Public record.
So I was trying to figure out another word that I could use in place of the N-word. I thought about unicorns.
Oh.
rainbows, ice cream cones.
Ooh.
But I've decided on equals. I'm going to use the word equals.
Oh, wonderful. Equals is a good one.
Yeah.
It's way better. I like it.
So, Senator James K. Vardaman of Mississippi, who was at the time a Democrat, a Mississippi Democrat, said that the White House was, quote, so saturated with the odor of equals that the rats had taken refuge in the stables.
Whoa. Wow.
Senator Benjamin Tillman of South Carolina said that the action of President Roosevelt in entertaining that equal will necessitate our killing 1,000 equals in the South before they will reach their place again.
I mean, that's what they did.
Yeah.
But more.
The Missouri Sedalia Sentinel published a poem by an anonymous author on their front page.
That's hilarious. Wow, anonymous poems? Like anonymous hateful poems?
Yes.
On the front page?
It was called Equals in the White House.
Ooh.
And it used the N-word 24 times in 14 verses.
Wow.
I'm not going to read the whole poem.
That's heavy-handed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
The fact that you could call that a poem, it's like, that's not... Come on.
He's just saying the N-word over and over.
He is. He can do better.
Yeah.
I believe in him. He could do better.
Well, this anonymous, who knows, he may not have been able to.
They could have... Yeah. He might have not have been able to. But I think that they could have found a better racist poem.
Yeah.
That was less...
Well, you would think.
Yeah.
However, after the Missouri Sedalia Sentinel published this poem, it was reprinted in many newspapers all over the South for the next 3 years.
Yeah, that's what they did back then.
Yeah.
That this was like before copyright, so they could just reprint anything, like overseas or national news, like verbatim, like just in their own paper. So
I'm not going to read the whole poem. Most of it isn't even really worth repeating.
Yeah.
It's dumb. It's
I mean, that goes without saying.
Sure, yeah. But the last couple verses really sort of...
Does it rhyme at least?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
Parts of it, anyways.
Proceed.
The last few verses sort of really drive home the point of, like, the sentiment and the way people were feeling. Especially, again, because like I said... People thought that the fact that he had invited a black man to dinner meant that he should have to basically offer up his daughter's hand in marriage to a black person.
Yeah.
And people were so incensed that this is sort of the way people thought it should be handled.
I mean, they tortured people who who they claimed looked at a white person. So I'm not shocked by any of this, but go on.
This is towards the end of the poem, or I think this is the end of the poem. I see a way to settle it, just as clear as water. Let Mr. Booker T. Washington marry Teddy's daughter. Or if this does not overflow Teddy's cup of joy, then let Miss Dinah Washington marry Teddy's boy. But everything is settled. Roosevelt is dead. Equals in the White House cut off Teddy's head.
Oh, okay.
I mean, literally, the rest of the poem is just like, there are black people in this room, and black people in that room, and black people over here. And
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are black people.
Doing things in the White House.
Or at least one black person in all these rooms.
But it's like, no, there was one, so that means...
Oh, yeah.
Free reign.
Yeah, all of them.
Ugh, fucking people.
Like, every single black person is just in the White House now. That's how it works. Well, they're putting their anger into art.
Yeah, that did rhyme.
Yeah.
Water and daughter.
Maybe they felt better afterwards.
I sure hope. I really hope that they felt better. That wasn't the end of it. It wasn't just the newspapers reporting. That was sort of just the beginning. Once the newspapers ran with the story, then everybody fucking flipped.
Yeah.
Letters poured into the White House.
Oh, of course.
People who had voted for Roosevelt swore never to vote for him again. Roosevelt and Washington both received death threats on a regular basis, and an actual assassin was sent to the Tuskegee Institute to kill Booker T. Washington. There were vulgar cartoons of Mrs. Roosevelt in newspapers.
Yeah.
And at that point, that wasn't something that was really being done.
His first, real term. Or this is...
No, this was... He had just taken over for McKinley. He wasn't even elected.
He wasn't even elected.
Oh, so I said that, people voted for him. They didn't vote for him. They voted for McKinley.
Got it.
But he was on that ticket. So.
Yeah.
But then they were swearing that they never would vote for him. At that point, the political cartoons, especially making fun of a first lady or a president's wife, were not done. And this was really the beginning of the time where anyone in a president's family sort of became fair game as a way to, like, get back at them for doing something they didn't like.
Well, they committed the worst error you could.
Yes.
I mean, the
most damnable outrage.
The most... Wow. Oh, this person needs to go to school.
A few days after the dinner, Roosevelt ended up having to give a public statement, and he said, "I shall have him to dine as often as I please."
Yeah.
But the truth was that Booker T. Washington was never invited to dinner ever again, and no black person was ever invited to dinner at the White House until 30 years later.
Yeah.
Booker T. Washington did remain an important ally for Roosevelt and did remain like an advisor
yeah.
and did visit the White House again, but
Yeah.
never to dine with him and his
I
family.
mean, he probably didn't want that heat.
Yeah. No,
I
because
wouldn't.
he was under
Yeah.
probably more heat than the president was, especially
obviously.
living in West Virginia.
Yeah. Dude. Should have got out of there.
Yeah. So White House officials tried to spin things to make it sound less controversial than it was. At first, they tried to say that there were no ladies present at the dinner, that they had just been men having dinner together. And then when that didn't really take, they decided to say that it was not a family dinner at all, but a lunch meeting that they had in the Oval Office, and a tray of sandwiches had been brought in at Theodore Roosevelt's request when they started to get hungry.
Yeah.
Which is bullshit.
A lie.
When Booker T. Washington died in 1915, some Southern newspapers actually said in his obituary that he had once had a lunch meeting with the president.
That's hilarious.
In the White House. In the 1930s, a journalist interviewing Edith Roosevelt asked, "Was it lunch or dinner?" And she checked her calendar and said it was most definitely dinner.
And Edith is a child?
Roosevelt's wife.
Wife, okay.
Yeah. Alice was his daughter. Who was there. Even some black leaders attacked Booker T. Washington.
Of course.
William Monroe Trotter said that the dinner showed that he was a hypocrite who supports social segregation between blacks and whites while he himself dines at the White House.
Yeah, no group is a monolith. You're
Yeah.
always going to have critics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roosevelt later said, "The only wise and honorable and Christian thing to do is to treat each black man and each white man strictly on his merits as a man, giving him no more and no less than he shows himself worthy to have."
If only.
10 years later, it was still controversial, and Washington, in his 1911 book, My Larger Education, he wrote that in the South, it is not custom for colored and white people to be entertained at the same hotel. It is not the custom for black and white children to attend the same school. In most parts of the North, a different custom prevails. Thus, in dining with President Roosevelt, there was no disposition on my part, and I am sure that there was no disposition on Mr. Roosevelt's part to attack any custom of the South.
Okay.
And that's it. That's all I got. Some dudes had dinner together and talked politics, and the U.S. lost their mind. It was the most damnable outrage ever.
That's so
in the United States history. This isn't to say that Teddy Roosevelt was a perfect angel.
Preview of coming attractions.
Yes.
Very cool.
So, to TR.
Yeah, to TR. Cheers. To bourbon.
Yes, suburban. Suburban and racism.
Oh, God. To people doing the right thing and that somehow being scandalous.
Mm-hmm. Literally, that was not a scandal. The fact that it was scandal was scandalous.
Yeah. It's the South. It's that time. They're just so wrapped up in their racism that they can't even see like an inch beyond it.
Yeah.
But my story is more upbeat.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank heavens.
Yeah. Since you were, in our last episode, able to go back to something that you mentioned in a previous one, I am doing the same. In my second scandal, I briefly touched on something that was incorrect. So I'm going to start with like an apology. The first of many. Mm-hmm. So I said that Warren G. Harding had a pet dog named Laddie Boy. It's in fact Laddie Boy, which makes all the sense. And then I went back to my notes, and I'm just like, did I write Lady Boy? Like, why?
I loved that it was Lady Boy. I'm sad that it was not Lady Boy.
Same. It was 100% Laddie Boy, and I'm just like, did I say Lady Boy because it's sexier? Obviously. and
it was a very sexy story.
Yeah, and I was drinking, and it was just the perfect storm of sexy talk and drinking and just me being excited.
That's the thing about trying to tell a historical and factually accurate story when there is hooch. Tipple, if you will. Tipple. What's your tipple?
What?
That's a thing, yeah.
Tipple means alcohol.
It sure does.
Tipple?
I mean, hooch, poison, tipple.
What era?
I don't. I'm an
Tipple?
old woman, so I don't really know when I've heard these things.
You should see the memes that he sent. He is like 300 years old. 85% of your gifts are in black and white.
Absolutely.
And I try not to judge you.
I'm not afraid of the fact that I am a 75-year-old woman.
I'm glad that you embrace who you are at your core. I support you.
I don't know when I picked up the term tipple. I think it was when I was a young girl in the 40s, maybe.
Yes. So the dog's name is Laddie Boy because... I mean, that makes sense. So I made a mistake, and I'm owning up to it. You can send us an email anytime that we get things wrong.
Also, for the record, Coquito is Puerto Rican.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Because I said that it was Dominican, and I was wrong. And now I know not to, refer to it as eggnog.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
My story is about Laddie Boy.
Really? Yes! Yay!
Okay. So I was just going to say that, I apologize, guys, and always call me out because I actually love apologizing. I went to Catholic school, so I feel guilty about everything.
Well, you're also an American, and especially an American woman.
Yeah.
Apologies are just part of existing.
Yeah. Yes, my everyday.
I'm so excited.
Do you remember? I don't know if you said this on air or off air. You asked me if Laddie Boy was the first presidential pet or the first presidential dog. So there have been many presidential pets before him. A bunch of dogs, cats, donkeys, ponies.
Really?
Yeah, snakes. There was a goat. There was a cow. Wow. There was a herd of elephants.
What?
Exactly.
At the White House?
At the White House. Oh most of the crazy ones. There was an alligator.
Do you want any more whiskey?
Yeah, I guess I'll have a little bit more. The crazier animals were gifts. They were donated by other heads of state. There were lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my.
Seriously though. Yeah. So the Roosevelt children had snakes that they loved to play around with. The alligator was a gift to John Quincy Adams from the Marquis de Lafayette. Martin Van Buren, he owned 2 tiger cubs. Yeah.
So is there
the Coolidges basically had a zoo. So there's stable areas and there's kennels.
Are they still there?
I think so. Where the elephants were, maybe that's not still there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time since they've had the crazy animals, other than just the birds, cats, and dogs.
Yeah, I'm sorry all of you bird lovers out there. I just think they make bad pets. They're also not affectionate.
Yeah.
They're essentially...
They're dinosaurs.
They're dinosaurs with wings.
Yeah.
And they
poop
everywhere.
Andrew Jackson had a parrot named Polly that liked to swear. And this parrot apparently was taken to his funeral and had to be removed because he was swearing. And it's why is the parrot here?
Yeah.
Why? The parrot isn't
The parrot is not mourning the loss of this man.
No, not at all. He's not wearing all black. There's no reason.
Give me a fucking cracker.
Yeah,
already.
Why am I here?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so bizarre.
It's not like a dog or a cat that actually cares.
Yeah.
Well, cats are debatable.
Laddie Boy. So he wasn't the first animal or the first dog. However, like the dog who owned him, he was the first celebrity. He was the first one who was in the press often and with glowing reviews. I found a quote from a Smithsonian historian, a gentleman by the name of Tom Crouch. He said that, quote, "While no one remembers him today, Laddie Boy's contemporary fame puts Roosevelt's Fala, LBJ's Beagles, and Barney Bush in the shade. That dog got a huge amount of attention in the press. There have been famous dogs since, but never anything like this." And this was said in 2009. So this was after Bo. And Bo is the first, he was the first dog of the social media era. It's so weird that there's no dog in the White House. It's so strange. So, Laddie Boy has a Wikipedia page. He's the first presidential pet with a wiki. The dog was born on July 26th, 1920. Okay. He was born in Toledo, Ohio. Uh-huh. On March 5th the following year, the Hardings received the 7-month-old Airedale from a Harding supporter in Toledo. The Hardings named the dog Laddie Boy, not to be confused with Lady Boy. And with no children together of their own, the two became dog parents. According to the New York Times, a week after the dog's arrival at the White House, he was trained already to deliver the newspaper to the president at the breakfast table. Something that it would do every day, or at least every day the press was there.
Wow.
Which might have been every day, just because
they lived in the White House.
The Hardings loved the press, because they were both newspaper people.
Yeah.
There's a quote from the New York Times. The New York Times loved this dog. Back then, the New York Times was like local news. Just reporting on...
Really?
We'll get into that, but yes. Yes. So this is coming from the New York Times. Quote, "The Airedale has been working on the stunt for several days, but this was the first time he got it through without a hitch." And this was March 12th, 1921. While the White House had kennels for pets, it had stables, it had a really big facility, he meaning Laddie Boy. It's so funny, like all the he's are just like a dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though there were kennels and stables and just like pet quarters, he spent hardly any time there. The Hardings kept Laddie with them almost at all times. They doted on him like a child that they'd never had together, I guess. 'Cause they both, as we know, had children outside of their marriage.
Yes.
One known to each other, and then others just, about in the world.
Warren G.
Oh, Warren G.
Why'd you do it?
So he, meaning, again, Laddie Boy, had unrestricted access to the White House living quarters. He was allowed to roam the White House grounds, attend meetings with the president, and was even given his own custom-made, hand-carved cabinet chair, where he would be there for like important meetings and photo ops.
Hand carved.
I
want to see. Are there images that you were able to find? These are going on Instagram.
There are so many images.
Yeah.
So like pages and pages and pages and pages of images. He was his constant companion.
You said he was an Airedale?
Airedale.
Cute.
Yeah. He was really cute. And he kind of knew he was cute.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's just getting so much attention from everyone. Yeah. So he was his companion on the golf course. He loved to retrieve balls. Whenever Harding hit a tree, he would bring them right back. He was a regular feature at the fundraising events that the First Lady Flossie was throwing. Both dog parents shared a deep love. Do people like that term, dog parents?
As long as you're not saying fur baby, I'm okay.
I say dog parent, and I like it. But then some people with kids are just like, they're not real parents. And it's like...
Sure, that's why you're prefacing it with dog.
Yeah, it's like, and again, who's talking to you?
Yeah. Who asked you, motherfucker? I don't have any children of my own. Just don't say fur babies and we're good.
Oh, I would never.
Who would do such a thing?
Ugh, gross.
People
are the worst.
That's true. If anyone out there is somebody who says fur babies, we still love you, but don't you fucking dare. But please keep listening.
Please keep listening and maybe, switch to dog parents.
Yes. Dog parents is a more mature option. So
Laddie Boy was a regular feature at the fundraising events that the First Lady attended. As I was saying, both dog parents shared a deep love of animals, but it was the media-savvy Flossie that turned Laddie into, like a poster dog, basically, for the promotion of animal rights issues. Laddie became the first presidential dog with like a national identity. He went on parades, he shook hands with celebrities and dignitaries.
What year was this again? I'm sorry.
He got the dog in 1921.
This is perfect. Yeah.
What do you mean perfect?
This is the perfect era to have this dog.
Like a dog celebrity.
Yeah, if you tried to do this in like 1862, people are like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, people wouldn't really get it.
Stephanie and I were talking recently about the glassware that was used in the last episode. It's called the Nick and Nora glass. But Nick and Nora were characters in a film series in the 20s called the Thin Man series, and their names were Nick and Nora Charles. That
scares me a little bit. Do you remember the legend of Tree Man? I don't know if this is a real thing, or my older sister made this up just to terrorize me.
You're thinking of Slender Man, right?
She called it Tree Man.
Okay.
And he could always hide behind trees, and you would look at him, and he wouldn't be there.
I don't know.
But he was there to get children.
Thin Man was basically the Murder, She Wrote of the 1920s.
Oh, yeah, you told me.
It was like
I love it.
Sort of high society New York couple who would solve these sort of murder mysteries in a really sort of silly and fun way. There were a ton of movies about them. It was Myrna Loy and I'm going to say William Powell. I'm probably wrong. But they had a dog. I think it may have been an Airedale.
Oh!
These were in the 20s.
Yeah, these dogs became really popular after the Hardings had him. Yeah, in the spotlight.
But the dog was like a major part of their sort of like shtick. The dog was in all the movies.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's so...
Yeah.
Perfect timing, man. Laddie Boy celebrated his first birthday at the White House, and it was like an event. The press corps was given access to snap all the photos of him, and he was sent a dog biscuit birthday cake complete with frosting from his father in Ohio. So his father is like a champion Airedale. His name was Tintern Tip Top.
Tintern Tip Top.
Tintern is one word. I don't know what that word means, but then Tip Top.
Okay.
Those three things are all his name. But he was this international dog, high pedigree, like was winning awards in London. So he comes from that stock. Like that is his father.
Amazing.
So his father, Tip Top, let's just call him Tip Top.
Sure.
Tip Top sent his son, Laddie, a cake for his first birthday to the White House. His father also penned an encouraging letter to his son. And this was printed in the papers.
How did they get the pen in between his paws?
They found a way.
Yeah.
They found a way. Maybe he typed it. Maybe he had a
That's
typewriter.
probably what it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, that's what it was. Because dogs can't hold pens.
No.
That's silly.
Yes, yeah. But they love a QWERTY keyboard.
So this is a quote from Tip Top's letter. "It's hard to realize what a famous family member we have in you, Laddie Boy. If we did not see your pictures, which appear so often in the newspapers and magazines, it would be hard for us to realize you've grown to doghood and are no longer the roisting young blade that we bade goodbye to long ago."
Roisting young blade.
Roisting young blade.
What does roisting mean?
And I'm like, blade? Like grass? Weird.
Oh, dogs.
Yeah.
Their secret language.
So along with this cake that his dad sent, his dad also sent some invitations for Laddie Boy to send to his friends, like his dog homies and his people friends, because he wanted him to have a birthday and just, bring all of his peoples to celebrate.
I'm sure Laddie Boy really appreciated all that.
So his birthday parties became an annual event.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I love this story. If I was a president, I would literally do this.
Every year they invited neighborhood dogs to join in on the celebration. And there would be photos taken of the dogs playing together and eating this biscuit cake. Children across the country, they celebrated the dog's birthday every July 26th.
Amazing.
So daily papers such as the New York Times, as I was saying, they were kind of like local news. Mm-hmm. They loved to run inane stories. Like if Laddie ran a cat up the tree, there would be a story. Like if Laddie got a new friend, there would be a story. In a 39-day period in the spring of 1921, I found a few headlines that appeared in the New York Times. Airedale as mascot. So I'm guessing that was right after he became like a poster child for animal issues. Another one is Laddie Boy, a newsboy. So we can guess what that was about.
Cute.
There's another one that's trees, White House cat. And I'm like, that's not even like a sentence.
It's just a listicle.
Yeah, trees. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
Try harder, New York
Try
Times.
harder. Do better.
Do better.
Laddie Boy gets a playmate is the final one.
Ooh, yeah. What's that all about?
He met a little dog friend,
Aww.
and they had some fun in the White House lawn.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're photos of everything.
Did he have children?
No, not that kind
like
of
he was just taken after his daddy.
No, he met a bro.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see. Okay,
like a playmate.
I misunderstood. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no! Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
They're writing letters to each other.
He's talking about his
Jerry,
his lipstick.
Jerry, yeah. So newspapers published mock interviews with Laddie. His first major interview, because there were many major interviews, but his first major interview appeared in the editorial section of the Evening Star on July 17th, 1921, where it was promised that he would, quote, address some of the prominent questions of the hour. So I have a quote from this interview. "I have consented to be interviewed because it is a duty I feel I owe the public. And while I am establishing a precedent, I trust that in the years to come, I will not be called upon again to discuss any public questions. The position I occupy is a most peculiar one, and I have to be very diplomatic in everything. I not only attend the cabinet meetings, but I also enjoy many hours of the president's company.
Laddie Boy's very well spoken.
Very well spoken. Harding also wrote to the press in the voice of Laddie Boy, because duh. I mean, yeah.
Oh.
And he loves, I mean, we've learned from episode 2 that this man loves himself a letter. So he wrote many, many letters. I only have like one.
How did he find the time?
How did he find the time?
He's also president, mind you.
Yes.
President of an entire country.
Yes.
A huge country.
Yes.
Spending roughly at least 83% of his time talking about his penis.
Spending a lot of time doing that, yes.
So, okay, anyways.
But he found the time to write in Laddie's voice, expressing his many opinions on things. In one letter to the New York Times, Laddie Boy wrote of the life in the White House, quote, "So many people express a wish to see me, and I shake hands with so many callers at the executive mansion that I fear there are some people who will suspect of me political inclinations. From what I see of politics, I am sure I have no such aspirations." And this was in the Times on February 8th, 1922. Laddie Boy was so famous that he even had a caretaker. His name was Wilson Jackson. He's like this squat black dude who had this stance of like, I wish a dog would try me today. Like, he was just like wearing a 3-piece suit looking like, don't even.
Amazing.
It's so good.
Oh
it's so good. I love all
There's going to be so many fucking pictures on our Instagram when this airs.
There's so many great pictures. I loved researching this story.
All you dog lovers out there.
Yeah.
Find us on Instagram, Beyond Reproach Pod.
Laddie Boy received his own official White House portrait. It's adorable. It's so, so cute.
Oh my God.
Harding also commissioned 1,000 miniatures of Laddie Boy, and he took great pleasure in handing these out to his supporters and just people who would visit.
Oh my God.
He'd be like, here's my little dog. And apparently these miniatures are still like floating around somewhere on eBay. They're very, very...
I need one.
They're very expensive. You don't want to pay for that.
Oh, but I still want one. Can I steal one?
Yeah. Ooh. So, yeah, that's kind of the end of his, like, kind of rise, and now I'm getting into the end of the story. So, in July of 1923, so it's just a year later, the Hardings wanted to escape Washington, where the press corps at the time were working overtime, researching all the scandals that were going on with his administration. Like, they were starting to come for him. The tide was slowly shifting to be less positive. So they escaped out west, and over the course of a few weeks, Harding's, he just wasn't feeling very well. And on August 2nd, 1923, he passed away in San Francisco. The dog wasn't with the two of them at the time. The dog was in D.C.
Okay.
But 3 days prior to his death, it says... There's multiple accounts that Laddie Boy was just like howling for no reason, like just like freaking out, like being really, really restless. There's a sad picture of the dog gazing out the window the day before he died.
Laddie Boy.
Yeah, it's like he knew that like the good times were over. Oh. Yeah. But I'm going to drop a lot of, I mean, there's just so many pictures. I'm going to drop my favorite pictures into Instagram. So in memory of President Harding, in honoring his former employment as a paperboy, newsboys all over the nation collected 19,134 pennies to be melted down and turned into a sculpture of Laddie Boy. Apparently the dog had to sit for 15 sittings so a sculptor could really capture his image. And Flossie died 3 years before it was finished. Wow. She died of renal failure because she had that floating kidney thing. And the sculpture now is at the Smithsonian. Shortly after the president's death, Flossie gave the Airedale to her favorite Secret Service agent, Harry Barker. I'm like, is this story real?
Yeah,
like,
right?
Are you guys pulling my leg?
But
like
also,
this?
why are you giving the dog away?
But she was kind of sickly, and she had just lost her husband, and she just felt like she couldn't care for the dog.
Sure. Okay.
She died pretty soon after, so she was right. She knew herself. She knew her poor health wouldn't allow her to take look after the dog properly. So Harry took Laddie to his home in Boston, and the dog lived a normal life. He died January 23rd, 1929, and it hit all the newspapers.
That's not very long for a dog.
Little dogs live forever.
Exactly.
And he's kind of a medium-sized dog.
But still, even like really big dogs tend to live for like 7, 8, 9 years. But that's a short life for a medium-sized.
He missed Warren.
Or maybe Barker didn't fucking take care of him well. Oh. That asshole.
Okay, I'm going to look into Barker. You might be right.
Next episode. There's going to just be a series on Laddie Boy.
So I'm now getting into the scandal.
I was going to say, this doesn't sound scandalous.
Yeah.
This is just interesting.
Yeah. A lot of my stories, like, I get into the scandal, like, way after I start the story, because I like to lay the foundation.
Set the scene, yes.
Yes. So this is kind of recent. In the overnight hours of July 12th, 2012, there was a break-in at the Harding home and museum in Marion, Ohio. Just before 8 a.m., the groundskeeper arrived at the historic home to find a ladder propped up to the second-story window, and the window is, like, open and ajar. Many of the rooms were in disarray, but nothing else was missing except for Laddie Boy's collar.
Wow.
They searched the whole place for the collar, the custom-made gold collar. Oh. The priceless collar, which had been sitting on a chest behind ropes that kept visitors at bay, was missing. The dog collar was made from Alaskan gold nuggets. It was melted down to be fashioned especially for Laddie Boy. Again, this was like their baby. So
sure, yeah.
So they just...
Well, also they were the president of the United States, so they could afford this shit.
Yeah, they're not just going to Target
and
getting a collar. The dog's name was written in raised letters on the center, and it was surrounded by hearts on each side. One heart read, quote, "From Alaska's Gold Heart," and on the other heart, it was the location and the date, Fairbanks, July. So Harding was the first president to go to Alaska. I don't know if I mentioned that.
No.
Which kind of ties back to my first.
To McKinley.
Yeah. He was the first president to actually visit Alaska. So it's dated on the second heart, Fairbanks, July 16, 1923. An article written the next day by Holly Zachariah for the Columbus Dispatch starts, "Of all things that thieves could have taken from inside the home of former President Warren G. Harding, yesterday morning they picked the one that hurts the most." Police quickly distribute photos of the heirloom, and I'll drop a photo on Instagram. It's really, really pretty. They distribute photos hoping that the thief would, like, try to pawn it, but it's not going to pawn it, like, on a regular
Yeah, you can't.
shop.
I mean, clearly this
People will be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows this dog. Well, I guess in 2012, maybe everyone didn't know, but still, it would be way too risky. So as of today, it still hasn't been found, and there's, like, an active tip line still for this.
Oh, wow.
Just like, that ship has sailed, friends. Like,
it's
it's never coming back. It's never ever coming back. So that's the end of my story, but I have a few, like, footnote things.
Sure.
The Hardings had 2 dogs.
See, this is the scandal.
They had another dog that he was so unpopular that they don't even know the name. Like, it was an English Terrier, and there are so many different accounts of the dog's name. Like, they couldn't even get the dog's name.
This is the scandal.
It was called either Old Boy or Ol Boy or Oh Boy. Like, nobody even knows.
This is some, like, flowers in the attic shit.
Yeah, they were ashamed of this dog. It was sad. And the dog was sick, too. When they got it, it was frequently sick, and it died. And they also had, if you can believe it or not, they had a pet squirrel named Pete.
Pete?
Yes.
Pete!
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Pete would eat out of people's hands. He technically lived on the grounds, but he was commonly found in the White House. Uh-huh. He could be seen scampering through the halls of the White House and even attended press conferences and news briefings. So I have a quote. I don't know what newspaper this is, but in the earlier stages of the Harding administration, Laddie Boy knows his way amongst the correspondents. Sniffing shins here and there, Pete has lately taken on these duties. At the conference last Friday, Pete entered the executive offices before the meeting was in session, ran nimbly to and fro during the proceedings, and was one of the last to leave, reported a tongue-in-cheek correspondent, and this was 1922. It goes on. This is the last little tidbit, but it's also scandalous. Pete apparently had a litter of little Petes. So Pete was not a Pete. Pete was like a Pauline.
Pete was a Petette.
Yeah.
Peatrice.
Woo! Peatrice! Oh my God.
Oh, that's the bourbon talking.
Yeah.
I love
and no one knows what happens to Pete after.
Well, Pete was a
Harding.
squirrel, so probably.
Yeah, I mean, Pete lived outside, but was just allowed to roam.
I actually follow an
kooky
Instagram account of somebody who has a pet squirrel that lives in the house. It has
Teddy Roosevelt had a flying squirrel at the White House.
Teddy Roosevelt did not, however, have an Instagram account.
Oh.
It's called, I think the account is called This Girl is a Squirrel. She's always putting up, like, Instagram stories of the squirrel, like, eating, like, tomatoes, and it's adorable.
Okay. Sure.
Bourbon.
I thought you were going to talk about the squirrel some more. I'm like,
Nope.
go on. You're like,
Nope.
and story died.
And then I'm drunk.
Yeah, so that's the end of my ridiculous
I love it.
story.
I'm sort of wish that it had a happier ending.
I know.
I feel sorry for Laddie Boy / Lady Boy.
Yeah.
But he had a good run.
He was out there.
Yeah.
He saw a lot of the world. He got to meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah. I mean, it must be hard when you're in the White House and your parents are popular to begin with, but then sort of things take a turn and the media sours on them. And then you're like a media darling. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, yeah, but everybody hates Harding. So that's like the Bush girls probably went through the same thing.
How dare you?
Things didn't start the same for them, though. Nobody ever loved Bush.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I guess in the end, if nothing else, Laddie Boy had a better life than the Bush girls.
Oh, so much. He had such a good life. He had, like, the run of the place.
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't have to stay in the kennels. He was just, like, chilling in the White House, in meetings. Everyone's petting him. He died too soon.
If only I had some Old English.
You'd pour some out for him. Yeah.
I'm really glad that you brought it back to Laddie Boy.
Yeah, I wanted to make a correction, and then I just started looking in, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
This story is good.
Yes.
And it's light. Sometimes we need a light story.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, anything about dog. If you can try to keep your eyes open for more dog-related scandals in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I...
Don't tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well... They'll be coming.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And hey, if you guys out there have any ideas for scandals that you really want us to tell, if there's anything that you're like, oh, I need to know more about a blank, like let us know. Send us an email, shoot us a Facebook message.
I have so many things that I want to talk about, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
They're really depressing, and I'm just not in a space where that's like healthy to jump in.
Yeah.
So... But one day...
I mean, that will be a part of what we're doing, is trying to find a way to tell a story that's depressing and tell it in a way that is entertaining to listen to.
Yeah,
but also,
and educational.
Yes, exactly. But if there's a story that you think is really fun or really interesting that we haven't thought of or we haven't told yet, please let us know. And please keep listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe, if you will. By the time this episode airs, we will most certainly be on iTunes.
Oh, yeah.
On, hopefully, Spotify.
Stitcher. Yeah, we'll be everywhere podcasts are found.
We be where podcasts be. So thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for putting up with us
Bye.
drinking. We hope you enjoyed it.
And I'm just going to say that I did not sing any songs from Hamilton, so I'm really proud of myself. Okay.
I am also going to say, when I knocked on the door when I got here, Hamilton was playing through the door when I walked up.
It is my happy music, okay? It puts me in the mood, and it's part of my therapy. Leave me alone. Bye.
Thank
Until
you.
next time.
Bye.